Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you don't know who I am the proud and humble leader of the Hounds of Business community, Mike Asherbrenner, affectionately known as the Redneck Connector. And yeah, I'm sporting one of those viruses that everybody seems to got today. But I'm going to forget about it here soon because we have an unbelievable guest. Loved having this guy in the Hounds. Great man. Practices what he preached, been there and done that. So here's the question, right? Here's the theme. You ever been so stressed you can't think right? Right? That pressure squeezing all the performance right out of you. All right, well, we got somebody who's literally been set on fire for a living and walked away to tell about it, folks. So we're going to get into this. Brian Hite, Hollywood stuntman. That was his previous career. Spent years as a Hollywood stuntman in over 130 productions. Earned himself an award for deciding to figure out what, our minds plays tricks on us under pressure. He's got himself a Ph.D. now, trains everyone from Army soldiers to corporate bigwigs. All right, how to perform well when doing things and when things are on the line. All right, we're going to be talking and digging into this, folks. And thanks for bearing with me. And who we got here already? We got Homer already in the house and Lewis Thickley. So real quick, thank you so much, Mike King Biz Radio on ESPN 106.1 FM RVA. All right, we are also live on YouTube and LinkedIn. Hounds of Business on YouTube and LinkedIn One on LinkedIn. Redneck One. I'm going to get the words out, folks. We're going to be all right, man. I'll Porky Pig all the way through this. We'll get Brian up. So let's run this intro and get started.
Looks like your business might be in a bit of a pickle. Don't you worry about a thing. You ain't alone in this. You're just a success story waiting to happen. Trust me on that. Every bump in the road is just an opportunity wearing a clever disguise. Welcome to the Hounds of Business community, where we don't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. Nope. We turn those obstacles into mighty fine stepping stones. This here's a place where high-level entrepreneurs and sharp professionals gather to grow their businesses and mindsets, kind of like how a good old gumbo needs the right ingredients to be something special. Ideas thrive here, and collaborations, well, they're as natural as sweet tea on a hot day. Success, it's a journey, and we're fixing to walk that road right beside you. Now, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest tips and insights. We're talking about the kind of wisdom that'll keep you ahead of the game. And while you're at it, head on over to our YouTube channel. We've got ourselves a treasure trove of videos, from expert interviews to webinars, everything you need to stay sharp in this fast-moving world of business. The Hounds of Business community? Well, we ain't just a network, we're a movement. So why not come on and be part of something bigger? Join us today and let's turn your business journey into a real Southern success story. Together, we'll achieve greatness, just like Crawfish and singing on a Friday night.
All right, let's see if Dr. Brian Hite here knows anything about Crawfish and singing on a Friday night. How are you today? Do you know anything about that?
I'm doing well. You know what's funny is I used to catch crawdads when I was a kid living in Oklahoma in the creeks, but I'd never eaten them until 2 weekends ago. A friend of mine had a crawdad or crawfish boil. He's from Louisiana, and I mean, just 300 pounds, I think, is what he got and cooked. It was crazy, but it was delicious. I'd never had them.
Yeah, yes, sir. I wouldn't eat them either, man. Last year, I went to my buddy's house in the deep country out here in Kentucky, and they put 80 gallons of crawfish in a 20-gallon container. It was like a clown car. It just kept pulling crawfish. I said, how do you pull out that many out of that little container? So, yeah, hey, at least we're going to have a good show. We get along, all right? So, man, welcome. I appreciate you, man. You've been in the Hounds of Business for quite a while. You have evolved constantly, and you do some pretty amazing things. So let's set the stage for the folks out here. All right. So as I said, man, from being set on fire to falling off buildings in 130 different productions, right? That's not just a dadgum job. That's a whole different way of living. So what was that moment when you realized that the mental game behind all these stunts was even more valuable than the physical skills, Brian?
You know, there wasn't a moment, I don't think, but I'll tell you what was really beneficial is, well, let me back up a little bit. When I left high school, I went to college like many do. And because that was what was expected. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
And about halfway through college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea what my job was going to be. And that's when I ended up going to see a stunt show at the Six Flags up in New Jersey, where I was going to college. And that's when I made the decision to do stunts. And as soon as I made that decision, then college had no meaning for me. And it was really hard to stay in. And I ended up dropping out with one semester to go. I did the show one more year in New Jersey, and then I moved to LA to be a stuntman in film and TV. But I left college. Well, 4 or 5 years later, I decided I wanted to go back to college because I missed learning, and I specifically really missed the psychology stuff that I was studying.
Right.
And so I went back to Rutgers. I finished the bachelor's degree and then continued on with a master's degree in sports psychology and a Ph.D. in organizational psychology, but not ever with expecting to work in those fields. It was just interesting to me. And to your question, what was really interesting and a lot of fun was the immediate application of the stuff that I was learning in school to my job as a stuntman. I was able to immediately extract stuff from the book and put it into my life on set. And that really made a big impact because it allowed me to not just, internally, intellectually understand the material, but I could put it into my body viscerally and experience the difference that it makes.
Wow. No, you said a whole lot there because I know the folks tuning in. Thank you all so much. Bobby, we see you. Lewis, Homer, thank you all for being the first folks in the chat. Wow, man. See, I did the same thing. I went and just grinned and bared it through school. Right? I'm an overly educated pink neck, right? 2 college degrees. But I love it that you said I saw a stuntman. So when you saw a stuntman in college and said, hey, I'm actually going to go for that, did people say, oh, yeah, that's an amazing idea, Brian, you should do that? Or they say, oh, that guy's crazy. See,
exactly 0 people said that it was a good idea. I mean, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when my mom told my dad that I was dropping out of college to move to Los Angeles to be a stuntman. I remember my uncle just laughed in my face when I told him in his living room. So no, nobody thought that was a good idea, but I did because that was just, I'd found something that I didn't even really know it was a job. I mean, I grew up watching The Fall Guy, the TV show with Lee Majors. So I knew that stunt people existed, but I just never put 2 and 2 together that you could make a living doing it until I saw that show. And because I knew the company manager of that show, which is how we got into Six Flags, I was able to talk to the performers and ask them that same question. How do you get to be a stuntman? And the answers that they gave seemed doable to me. Learn how to do fights, learn how to do high falls, learn how to do motorcycles, come to the audition, see if you get the job. And I learned all that, went to the audition, got the job, and here we are 30 years later. And I'm still going. There was a show that just Righteous Gemstones, the last episode of that show just came on. I worked on that. A couple weeks ago, The Cleaning Lady, an episode of that was on there, fell off a boat, bounced off a picnic table. So it's still going, and I still love it.
Another day at the office for Brian. All right. So, and by the way, there wasn't Hollywood Stuntman wasn't in our career day at high school either, man. So
no, nobody knows.
Yeah. So good for you. And I say that because our folks want to do business with people they can relate to, Brian. And that's the most relatable stuff. You're not just some dude with a silver spoon running around just making stuff up. You've been there, done that, made these hard choices when most wouldn't. And that's why you're relatable. That's why you're effective, right? Not just likable. So let me bounce off this one. You often talk about in your media, you got podcasts, books, all this stuff, but you talk about the idea that pressure ain't something we're under, right? It's something that we create, right? And that's mind blowing to me, kind of in a way, because I don't hear a lot of folks talk like it. So if you don't mind, break down how regular people are creating their own pressure without even knowing about it.
Yeah, well, it's the same is true with stress as well. And there are 2 different things, and I think that's an important thing to point out because they're often conflated. You'll hear people talk about stress and pressure interchangeably, like they're the same. They aren't the same. But when we get into pressure comes from a focus on the outcomes of a situation. It comes when our attention is on, I don't want to screw this up because, and whatever follows that because, that's where it matters. So when I talk about situations, I talk about high stakes situations, not high pressure situations, not high stress situations, high stress jobs, etc., because those don't exist. There are simply situations, environments, jobs. And whether we experience stress or pressure in those moments depends on how we look at that situation, how we view it. I talk about it like it's an illusion. And what I mean by that is not that it's not real, not that stress and pressure aren't real, because they are. They're very real. They're tangible. They're visceral. They are powerful. But they are illusions in the sense that they only show up when we look at situations from certain perspectives. The picture that I use for that, it's pretty, most people have seen it. There are a couple. One is the picture where it's 2 people looking at each other in a silhouette. if you look at it one way, or it's a chalice or a glass of some sort. That's one illusion. Another is the old lady, young lady. If you look at it one way, it looks like an old lady with a big nose and a shawl. If you look at it another way, it looks like a young lady with big hair and a necklace. And either way is valid. The data don't change. The picture is what it is. But if we perceive it in one way, we experience an old lady. If we perceive it a different way, we experience a young lady. That's how our lives are. When we're in a situation, it's just a situation, just like that thing's just a picture. And if we look at it one way, put our attention in one place, we perceive it in a way that maybe we experience stress or pressure, or both maybe. If we look at that exact same experience in a different way, well, then we don't experience stress or pressure. So it's not that they're not real, they are, but they're an illusion in the sense that they can disappear depending on how we choose to perceive that situation.
Yeah, wow. I was a fireman for 8 years, Brian. So I can relate to what you're saying. And I'm like, yeah, dead on, man. You definitely have the head knowledge and the experience to go together. You're absolutely right. And that's what Marcus Aurelius said that before, right? Like that's a famous quote everybody quotes it's not the event itself that causes the issue, it's the interpretation of it.
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius said something like that, but that was Epictetus. The one you just said is Epictetus is who that one goes with. But Aurelius said something similar too. So this isn't a new idea. I mean, it really isn't. This goes back, like you just said, millennia. Shakespeare knew it, wrote about it in Hamlet. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's not the situation. It is not our circumstances. It is how we perceive them, how we think about them, and what we choose to pay attention to and the meaning that we assign to that. That's what creates our experience. And that's entirely up to us.
Yeah. So like me, you're teaching new dogs old tricks. That's what it's like. Oh, it's new. Nah, it's been around, but you know how to apply it. You know how to make sense of it. Like the way you just said, stress and pressure isn't the same. And pressure is the outcome focus. You're focusing on the outcome. Man, that just helped me a million, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, well, let me just break that down real quick, because when we're talking about stress, the model that I use for this isn't old either. Or I mean, isn't new either. It's been around for, 50, 60 years. It's called the transactional model of stress. If you're a theory geek like I am. But anyway, what it says is that when we're in a situation, we do what's called a primary appraisal. And that is, am I in a threatening situation? Is there a threat present? And if the answer is yes, then we do what's called a secondary appraisal. And that secondary appraisal is, okay, well, do I believe that I have the resources necessary to deal effectively with this threat? And if the answer is no, then we get stress. So that's where stress comes from. Is it a threat? And I don't think I can handle it. That's where stress is. So stress is about the situation itself, how we're perceiving the situation and our available resources to deal with the situation. Pressure, on the other hand, is, again, it's about the outcome. It's about worrying about the what if. And it's not even about success or failure. It's about the consequences of success or failure. If I succeed, then my life is on the fast track. My job's on the fast track. I'll never have to worry about money again. Life's going to be fantastic. If I fail, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my job. The market sucks right now. I'm never going to be able to get another job. It's that type of thinking. It's what follows the after it. This sucks because, that's where pressure lives. And pressure comes, and this is still tied to the consequences, but also from the perception that we have to. When we feel like we have to do something, that's where we experience pressure as well. So pressure is also connected to motivation. And I have a whole program on motivation. So I have a whole program on pressure, a whole program on stress, and a whole program on motivation. They're all interconnected, but they're worth talking about separately for any number of reasons. But that's part of pressure as well, is that perception that we have to do something. It's not a choice. We're feeling forced to because of the consequences that will happen if we don't.
Wow. So Brian Hite, folks, on the radio, watching live, go to Brian Hite, HITE, BrianHiteGlobal.com. And tell me real quick, Brian, please tell me you got a YouTube channel where I can scroll through like your shorts instead of nonsense. Like, tell me, because I could hear you talk about all of it all day long, brother.
Man, I wish that I did, and I soon will. I have some interns that are coming to do just that, to start setting up a YouTube channel that we can start getting some shorts out there. At the moment, there are just a pile of shows like this on YouTube that people could access where I talk about these various things. But I appreciate you bringing that up. That is something that's on the front burner for sure.
Yeah, and they can go find all your books and everything from that website. And I want to give a shout out to Mike King. Mike King Biz Radio. All right, this guy is so awesome, pushes up his community, Brian, that when he goes out and goes to the ball game, they put him on the Jumbotron. They love the guy. So, man, thank you, Mike King Biz Radio, for working with the Hounds of Business, taking this international, bringing folks like Brian Hite, right, to the limelight. So folks who are building a business, they're trying to make an impact in this world, man. They're giving up their 401ks. They're dropping out of college, right? They're starting careers at 50. They're going Brian style on it. And they want to make an impact in this world, but they won't. Most of them won't because they don't have the resources, people, and support to get it done. All right. So shameless plug, Hounds of Business. Don't do it alone. Dadgummit, we may not be your cup of tea, but come check us out, test drive us, right? Like you would date before you get married kind of style. And if you want to learn more from folks like Brian, go to our YouTube channel, right? We got tons of stuff, video library, and we'll be putting Brian's stuff up there if he'll let us. So the one we can get the message out. And that's what we're about, helping people get unstuck. And that's what Brian, man, he is all about mental resilience, strength, and getting things done with proper perspective. And I could talk to you all day. We're going to have you on the Hounds of Business show soon, brother. So you back to it, man. You have facts framework, correct?
Yeah. That's something I came up with maybe a year or so ago. And the reason I came up with it is just because it's easy to remember and it combats that illusion. So if we want to, if we're dealing with illusions and being, I don't want to say tricked, but guided in the wrong direction by our perceptions, well, what are the facts? What can we lay our hands on? What's really concrete? And the fact is, it's an acronym, FACT, for focus, arousal, confidence, and tenacity. Focus is attention, where our attention is at any given moment, how we are paying attention, and how we're interpreting what we're attending to. It's incredibly valuable, incredibly important, because our entire lives are based on where our attention goes. Any memory that we have, we only have because whatever we remember made it into our conscious awareness. And there are so many things that don't. So how we guide our attention, how we direct our attention, how we use our attention, critical. And then arousal is just the level of pumped upness that we have, the level of amped upness that we have. Any given task that we have, whether it be doing a radio show or writing a paper or doing a presentation, they all have a right amount of energy activation for us personally in order for us to be at our best. So what is that right amount of energy activation for us? We have to know that. And we have to know whether we're too low, too high, or just right. And third, we have to know, how do we get ourselves and keep ourselves in that just right spot? So that's arousal. Confidence, that's a huge tool, because it's one of those things that when you start talking about the higher the stakes, the higher the pressure, or the lower the performance, maybe because people there are performance decrements as the stakes arise. Confidence moderates that relationship. Confidence will affect the extent to which the stakes will impact performance. What I mean by that is that if the stakes are really high and the consequences really matter, but I really believe that I'm capable of achieving what I've set out to achieve, that I'm capable of succeeding in this moment, then my performance, I'm not going to experience as much, if any, pressure, and I will perform to my potential in that situation. So developing that realistic confidence is critical. And there are several ways of doing it. We talk about all four when I work with clients. And then the last one is tenacity. And that it encompasses motivation, but it's more than that. It's almost probably the biggest benefit of the tenacity is the realization that today's not it. We're not done today. It's not a one-off deal. Now, you've been a firefighter, I've been a stuntman. We've probably both been in situations where if we screw it up, ourselves or somebody else may not go home in the same condition that we showed up in. And those situations do happen, and they're real, but they're not the norm in most situations. We can go into most situations realizing that, you know what, there's going to be a tomorrow. If I screw this up, which I don't want to do, and the consequences for it would be bad, and I really don't want them, but if I do, I'm not done. I'm going to continue going. I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to get out of bed tomorrow morning and the morning after that too. And I'm going to keep going. So that's where the tenacity comes from. So those are the facts.
I love that, man. Oh, I wish we had 3 hours now. Dadgummit. Gee whiz. All right, but hey, I'm gonna do my job here. But we got to know, Brian. So if you don't mind, give the listeners a real world example from your stunt days of how this framework either kept you alive when things could have gone south, or kept you mentally strong to get through it.
Well, different components of it have helped in different times in different ways. But I will tell you that when I was putting together this framework, the job that I was telling you about on the cleaning lady, where I fell off a boat and bounced off the picnic table, that was happening. Lou Diamond Phillips was directing that episode, and it was, we were doing, it was one take is what it was going to be, and I was playing around with this stuff a little bit. I let my mind go to some of those places where I would normally prevent it from going completely. I started to focus on some of the consequences just to test it out, see what went on with my body, see what went on with my mind. And then I leveraged these facts to pull myself back, to recenter myself and reground myself in the moment. And it was incredibly valuable. So for focus, instead of focusing on the fact that Lou Diamond Phillips, who I love and admire and have for years, is directing this episode, and that there is only one take, and that I am 50 years old, about to fall 10 feet to this picnic table. And if I get hurt, how am I going to make money, and what's going to happen with my family, and all of these different consequences? That's where my attention could go. But that's clearly the wrong spot for my attention to be. That's not a helpful place at all. So I redirected the attention back to what's important right now. Where do I need to focus in this moment? And paying attention to those arousal levels. As my thoughts started to stray to those consequences, I could feel my heart rate increase. I could feel my breathing change, my muscle tension change. So I recentered. I changed my arousal level back to where it needed to be. Confidence, I've done this thing. I've never done that specific gag, a lot of times, but I've been hit by cars a dozen times. I've fallen downstairs. I've done things that hurt a lot. And so I knew what to expect. I knew that I could do that. And the confidence that I had in that moment was one that, yes, it was a threat. Yes, it was dangerous. Yes, the consequences were high, but yes, I'm confident that I can do it. And you know what? Tenacity. Look, in the short term, if we screw it up, then I will get up and I will do it again, if my body's capable. And in the long term, if this doesn't go quite right, you know what? There'll be another job down the road. There'll be another job next month. There'll be another place where I can demonstrate the skills and execute what it is that I do. It's not the end of my days, and it's not even the end of work with this particular show. So that's the way that I, in that moment, really, again, it was just playing around. I've gotten to the place where this stuff is so ingrained that I don't really think about it as much. It's automatic for me to get my mind right when I'm in those places. But because I was kicking around this new framework and this new approach to pressure and stress, I played around and let my mind go places it typically doesn't. And this is the way I brought it back. It worked for me.
Yeah, you said so much there. When you said it's the wrong time for that, I've been in that too. That's the focus part, probably. You don't want to get in a house fire or in that moment. But I love the way you're playful, man. You got such a healthy attitude. Hey, if this doesn't work out and it goes all disastrous and my life takes a 180, hey, I'll do it again. I'll do something different. You're never at that victim mentality, but that's not something that you just popped out of the womb with. You had to develop that, and that's what you help people with, correct? And you help the Army. Like, you help. Who do you help? All right, and then we'll get into how, because I want to make sure folks go to brianhiteglobal.com. If you're getting a lot out of this, like me and the live stream guest, go there, start there. He's got great books, all kind of stuff, podcasts, but also what is it that you do and how can folks tap in? Do you have personal coaching, group coaching, all the above? Let us know how to get there, brother, and what to expect.
Yeah, everything really falls under the umbrella of high stakes environments, high stakes situations. And the way that I define that is just situations that matter, where the consequences are important to you. They're important to you. They don't have to be important to anybody else, but if they're important to you, then they are high stakes moments, high stakes situations. And the 5 populations that I deal with most often are corporate, education, meaning kids and administrators, teachers, the first responders. I've worked with EMS, fire, police, and I spent 10 years working with the military too, the U.S. Army. I also work with performing artists of all stripes, singers, dancers, musicians, and athletics of all different sports as well. And those are the 5 arenas, the 5 areas where I've really found a lot of people who regularly find themselves in these high stakes moments. And there's the other thing is, again, short-term, long-term. Short-term, you got to perform well right now in a lot of those situations, in the moment. You have to figure out how to get it right now. But long-term, you have to do that over and over. If this is your career, it's not a one-time thing. You have to figure out how to manage that energy and manage those thoughts and manage those emotions over the course of years. And that can take a big toll if you're not doing it in an intentional, deliberate way. So those are the populations that I work with. I do it through keynote speaking. I do it through workshops. I have some masterminds that'll be coming up here in the next few months. There is some individual coaching that I will do, but I'm picky about who I do that with. I just, there's only so many hours in the day, but I will do some individual coaching if people, if it seems like the right fit. I do have some books. I have a book, the one that's up there on the screen right now, called The Change. That's one that I contributed a chapter on resilience to. And then my other book is Begin Again, Utilize the Wisdom of Eastern and Western Ideologies to Achieve Your Full Potential. That's a amalgamation of 183 essays that I wrote on various topics that just kind of came to me when I was doing my work, my own stuff with journaling and reading and
I'm gonna have to buy that. I love Western and Eastern philosophy, man.
Yeah, and it really amazed me how they came together. Really, the Buddhist and Hindu philosophies matching up with what we were just talking about earlier with Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, and even now to modern day science, we start talking about quantum physics and wave functions, probabilities, wave functions. Like it's just there's so much interconnectedness between the East and the West that it was a lot of fun to read about that and to bring that into the essays that I wrote. So that's what that book is.
Oh man, I know the perfect people to come in for the HLB Live, but that would be stellar. Oh my goodness, man. They blow the roof off of that one. We'd have a great discussion. So folks, hey, you've heard it, all right? Hollywood's, I'll get the words out. Thank God Brian was here, folks. Like this guy, he just can talk and drop nuggets. I can listen to him all day. So thank you on my day of being sick, Brian. You were the perfect guest and you're the realest guy, man. I love having you in the pack. I love that you're out there dropping real knowledge and helping people either get unstuck or go to the next level, right? Often they're the same. So folks, don't hesitate. Go to Brian Hite. That's HITE global.com. Check out all the resources. The guy's got a bunch of great stuff. His free stuff is better than a lot of the paid stuff I've seen out there. And that's a big statement, folks. So you know how we roll here, right? It's all about who this person is. Are they in the best interest of us when they operate? And thank you for being there, Brian. Love having you in the pack. And folks in the comments, Ashraf, I see you, my friend. Thank you for popping in. Lewis, I know you're always busy, so thank you. And again, hey, shameless plug. Don't build a business by your dadgum self, all right? Plug into a community of people that can inspire, push you up, and help you be your best self, right? So tune in next week. We'll have another great show, same time, same channel. Brian, thank you so much, my friend, for all you do, who you are. Keep going out there and helping folks, especially the first responders, man. We definitely need your material. So we're going to be spreading that out there to our military folks as well, in and outside the Hounds. So
I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I had a good time.
My pleasure, brother. Well, we see you all back. Have a great, safe weekend, everyone. Thank you all for stopping by. Be sure to follow, share, and like, and send me a message if you had fun today. Y'all come back now.